PS5 SSD is far ahead of high-end PCs, Epic CEO says. So we kind of touched on this. We're talking about some of that UE5 demo. So Matt Kim's IGN has the details. Today, Epic Games reveals its next-gen game engine, Unreal Engine 5. To showcase the power of its new engine, Epic revealed a brand new, fully playable tech demo, which we just watched or talked about. IGN asked what advancements are in the PS5 that allows for Unreal Engine 5 to function at this high of a level on the console. Epic founder and CEO Tim Sweeney explained that it was the system storage advancements Sony hardware architect Mark Cerny revealed earlier this year that makes the next-gen Sony console a powerhouse. I think it's, first of all, Sony has a massive increase in graphics performance compared to previous generations, but I guess we get that every generation, Sweeney joked. But Sony's made another breakthrough that in many ways is more fundamental, which is a multi-order magnitude increase in storage bandwidth and reduction in storage latency. As revealed back in March in a digital deep dive on the PS5 hosted by Sony architect Mark Cerny, Sony revealed its custom solid-state drive that targets at least 5 gigabyte per second in terms of bandwidth. That's compared to the 50 to 100 megabits capable on the current PS4 hard drives. The PS5 puts a vast amount of flash memory very, very close to the processor, says Sweeney, so much that it really fundamentally changes the trade-off that games can make and stream in. And that's absolutely critical in this kind of demo, Sweeney explained. This is not just a whole lot of polygons in memory, it's also a lot of polygons being loaded every frame as you walk around through the environment, and this sort of detail you don't see in the world would absolutely not be possible in any scale without these breakthroughs that Sony has made. It's just more info on how monumental this change in these new SSDs is going to be for next gen.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And again, I've seen so many fragile PC players being like, "Oh, how is this better than normal SSDs and all this?" And it's like, if they actually read it, it's because it's custom. It's customized for games. Like an SSD for a PC is to hold your operating system. It's a multi-purpose thing. It's for documents and videos and
TurboTax.
Whereas this, they've been able to make it so that games benefit from it more. The only benefit that games get from SSDs on PCs is that they load quicker. They aren't able to be used for frames loading polygons and the PlayStation 5 because it's a custom sort of machine. They're able to, like you said, to put memory close to the processor, whatever that means.
Right.
But that's what seems to make this sort of trade-off in games. And I think that's what a lot of people who are on the sort of PC bandwagon of consoles are so far behind and all of this, they don't understand that these things are custom built from the ground up for games, whereas PCs aren't. PCs, you need all these different components and they all need to speak to each other for so many other things other than games, whereas a PlayStation 5 is solely built to play games on. And that's why it's so impressive, and that's why these kind of things are only able to be done on consoles, because they need that custom optimization to do what they do. And if you want that kind of power on a PC, you need to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think what Tim Sweeney's saying here, which is so important, is that these guys who make these engines, they need that support as well. They can't think, right, let's take a $2,000 PC and build an engine around those components. They can't do that because no one will be able to play their games. Whereas with the PlayStation 5, they know that they can build an engine that takes advantage of all of this custom, amazing tech, and build their engine around that. A lot of PC players think that consoles hold games back, but they clearly don't, because engines are built around the hardware that they're intended to be used on. So to have custom hardware, that is what actually allows these breakthroughs to happen. I think it's awesome. I think you're really starting to see like a real apex of sort of technical engineering when it comes to games consoles now.
Yeah, no, I mean, brilliant points. You're right that, and it seems like at face value, it's a controversial statement to say, SSDs in consoles, next gen consoles are going to be far ahead of PCs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the benefit of having custom architecture, having motherboards built a certain way where they're only able to communicate in that speed. When you're right, with the PC, they're kind of stock, platforms that have to have the certain way that they communicate with all the different things that you swap in and out. But that's the benefit of having, and I'm sure after a couple of years, PCs are gonna also trump this kind of stuff for sure. But it's like at the moment, the way that they're making them custom made, it's hard to beat. I mean, and that's just that's the reality of it. But it's just people get emotional and they see that tagline and then they fire off their tweet and stuff.
Yeah, but also PCs will be able to trump this, but they'll be doing that by using Unreal Engine 5. And Unreal Engine 5 was built the way it is because of the PlayStation 5, because it allowed its engineers to work with this custom SSD. It's probably going to change the way SSDs are with PCs now as well. I could be wrong, but I really do feel that these custom consoles are the things that drive this stuff forwards. It's just that PCs are capable of doing so much, but it just costs a lot to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Let's segue into our next one here. We got just some update on the PS4. It keeps selling gangbusters, so it's at PlayStation 4 reaches the $110.4 million sales mark. This is details from VentureBeat. Mike Minotti has it here. As part of its financial results today, Sony revealed that lifetime sales for PS4 have now passed 110.4 million consoles. That number was at 108.9 million in February. The PS4 came out back in 2013. Today, the console is on its last legs, with the PS5 set to release later this year. PlayStation 4 has been a big hit, becoming the number 2 best-selling home console of all time. It is behind the PlayStation 2, which sold around 155 million machines. Sadly for the PS4, it looks unlikely to pass its older brother. Maybe that's a task for PS5, and while Sony admitted that the ongoing pandemic has presented some challenges, the new console is still set to launch this holiday season. Just to kind of put into perspective how successful PS4 has been to reach almost past PS2, which is the top of the list there. But I mean, we're at the end of its life cycle. It seems like maybe it's going to be, we're really going to see. I'll let that siren pass by. We're really going to see it like taper off because we're gearing towards next gen. Everyone basically and their mom already has a PS4, so I don't know how many more they're going to keep selling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I doubt it'll reach 155, but who knows? I mean, it's pretty well known that the PS2 only even reached that because it was like by far the cheapest DVD player at the time.
True.
Like by huge amounts. I don't think there's going to be that kind of thing ever again that will allow such like insane numbers.
Right.
I think that's what they tried with the PS3 as well, because Blu-ray at the time was like $900,000.
Right. But that meant the PS3 was traditionally or notoriously higher priced console, exactly, so it was a hard kind of gamble.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they were just trying to mimic the success of what came before, and it failed it failed miserably at first, and then managed to pick itself up. But I think 110 million in today's climate without that being like a thing is insane. It's such a amazing benchmark. I can't imagine the PlayStation 5 selling or beating that, because I think Xbox have been coming out swinging a bit better this time. So I think the numbers will probably be slightly more even. I still think PlayStation will probably outsell just because of the sheer like volume of PlayStation 4s compared to Xboxes. That I think people, like myself, if the PlayStation 5 was like 10 times worse than the Xbox, I'd still get the PlayStation just because I'm so involved in that ecosystem. We were talking earlier about how much I love trophies,
right?
And the meta game that comes with that ecosystem. And I think that the percentage of people like that alone will probably ensure that the PlayStation 5 will still come out on top in sales. But I think it will definitely be closer. So I don't think that they'll probably get to the amount they've sold now, because I think that is testament down to how amazing the PS4 has been. With its amazing library of games, but also how poor Xbox started, and they didn't really do the PlayStation 3 where they managed to rally around. I mean, they definitely have rallied around now, but I think it's far too late.
Right. No, you're totally right. They did with Game Pass. And that side from
Yeah,
their hardware sales was like having that is really a game changer for them and kind of bringing them
yeah,
back to life. But no,
yeah,
you're totally
definitely.
right. I mean, I think it's seeing that sales of 110 million. It puts into perspective our transition into next gen with the fact that there's so many consoles. Developers are going to make sure that their game is still on current
Yeah.
gen because that's where the money is. So I think we're
Hmm.
going to see longer legs for PS4 going into PS5 because that's where you want your game to be, so that it actually has the potential to sell. So I think
Yeah.
you're even if you have a PS4, if you bought it today, you're going to be safe knowing that because there's so many consoles there, those devs are going to want to make sure that their game has a presence there. Maybe it's stripped down, it's
Yeah.
not as next gen, but it's still there in some capacity.
Yeah, well, I think it was the same with the PS2. I mean, when the 360 came out, in what, 2005, 2006,
Sure.
there were like multi-platform games, PS2 and 360. I remember having a PS2 up to the PS3, and my brothers had a 360, so they were still sort of fairly neck and neck at first, with obvious advantages to the Xbox. But even like God of War 2 came out on the PS2 I'm pretty sure after the PlayStation 3 came out.
Mm.
Jack 3 was very, very close as well. So yeah, and so I think you're right. I think the amount it's sold, the amount of players there's going to be on those consoles, the longer devs are going to support it. Because I'm pretty sure I mean, PS3 was supported for a while as well, but so many people just went straight to PS4. I mean, it was quite affordable at the time.
Right.
You know, £350 in the UK, or 349 in the UK it came out at, and I remember at the time thinking. I mean, I at the time I lived at home and was working full time, so
You bought two of them
yeah.
just because you could.
But yeah, it was a good price, and I think the PS5 is going to be a different story. I think the PS4 is, like you said, sold so many. There's going to be so many people on it who don't want to move off of it yet, and they don't really need to. And the PS5 is probably going to be, I reckon, about $500-$600. So it's going to be a bit more of a step up in price as well.
Right. Yeah, I think 500 is a safe bet considering the amount of tech we're going to know it's going to have to be in there. Yeah, I think 500 is safe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know some of there's data already out there. Like there's facts that we might have even talked about in the past, but for PS2, it was still supported with like games like FIFA and other sports games till PS4's life cycle. I want to say like the first 1 or 2 years of PS4, there were still sports games that were on PS2. So like they kept.
I'd love to see like the statistics of how many people bought those games.
Sure.
I bet it's like huge numbers. But yeah, and I mean, I was talking to. I've got a few sort of indie dev friends who live. One of them lives in Malaysia, and one of them lives in the Philippines. And they both their most recent console is the PS2. They still haven't got the PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4, just because they said it can be quite hard to get hold of them. And but yeah, so there's definitely a lot that we don't see and that we aren't really acclimatized to. But yeah, I think you're definitely right. I think the amount of PlayStation 4s sold will influence studios and maybe restrict their games slightly in a way.
For a little bit, and then we'll be off to the races, I'm sure, after
Yeah,
a couple of years.
yeah. And I'm sure the PlayStation exclusives will be very quickly shifted over as quickly as possible.
Right. Well, if it's stuff like Ghost of Tsushima, which we just saw, it's like, bring it on. I'm fine with being with current gen for a while because these games still look beautiful.
They're going to be stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place though, because they want people to buy the PlayStation 5, but they also want to make money. Right. So like they're going to have a real decision to make to sort of forecast, right, how many PlayStation 5s do you think this game will sell if it's exclusive to it, versus how much money do you think we'll get in revenue if we also put it on the PS4. So it's going to be really interesting, especially from Sony's first parties, to see how they approach that.
Although that's an interesting point, just the fact that they're going to want to make sure they have a presence on PS4, but with the whole change in architecture with these super fast SSDs, is it going to be hard for them to go back and almost develop two games with the fact that they can load so much faster on PS5, but they're stuck with the old hard drives and architecture with PS4? I wonder if that's going to complicate things.
Yeah, because it's going to seem so like old and prehistoric to them as soon as they start developing. As soon as they get a taste of what they can achieve, if they're developing exclusively for PS5, it's going to be really hard to then reverse engineer that and sort of restrict it to PlayStation 4 as well.
Yep. interesting. Well, we'll see. Our next story here is more PS5 stuff, so we'll get into that. So this is more rumors on when we're actually going to see, because that's the thing. We talk all day about PS5. We still haven't seen the fucking box. We don't know a price. You know, we still haven't locked down an actual date. But
it's kind of becoming kind of like kind of attractive in a way. Like they're really sort of like teasing us, and it's sort of like I've stopped sort of being annoyed, and I'm now like really like drooling in the mouth
Right.
to sort of see this thing.
Nope.
So I don't know whether this is going to be like a stroke of genius, or whether I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be annoyed again.
No, I think that's a point I've had for a while now too. It's that because they've withdrawn all the information, and they've been withholding. Rather, it's like they're now increasing that hype. Hopefully they don't blow it, but it's like I'll read online. We talk about like following different things on Twitter where it's just like general gaming conversations. It's always like, oh, we haven't seen anything from PS5 and Xbox is gonna win, blah blah blah. But it's like really they're now creating so much hype. Anything they show, people are thirsty for it. So it's like they've kind of, whether they've done it on purpose or not, they've expertly crafted this hype machine, and so now they just have to deliver. But it's like everyone's hungrily waiting for what they show.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that they just understand how volatile the gaming community is.
Sure.
I mean, they've been hit by it hard before. Because I mean, you look at it now. I mean, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it was everybody in Xbox's camp. Or well, I don't say everybody, but the vocal minority of people on the internet being loud were in Xbox's camp. And now it's completely swaying the other way because you've had this Inside Xbox event, which people were really unimpressed with.
Yep.
Which I actually thought was quite good, but the majority of people seem to be unimpressed with it. And now this Ghost of Tsushima thing, and I just had a quick look on Twitter, and people were like going mad about it.
I'm sure.
It's now swung the complete other way, and so people are now forgetting all of these sort of things they were annoyed about.
Right.
And so it could just be a stroke of masterclass from PlayStation, really, because I mean they got. I think that's where we've all been confused as well, because we've all been like, they must have such clever marketing teams. Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? And now we're sat here after seeing Ghost of Tsushima, kind of like, oh, I don't even care that I haven't seen it.
Right.
It's kind of like mysterious and sexy in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. Eventually we are going to see it, and so this is our next story, is just more rumors about when we're going to actually see some PS5 details. Yeah. So this is on Forbes. Paul Tassi has the details. Here's when we'll see Sony's PS5 reveal event. Here's when Sony's PS5 reveal event will probably be. Two different industry sources are saying roughly the same thing about when Sony's doing its next, presumably large PS5 event. VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb says the event will be June 4th. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, previously of Kotaku, has said a more general window from early to mid-June. But the point is, somewhere around a month from now, Sony has left far more mystery in place about the PS5 and its upcoming launch, and we've seen than we've seen from Microsoft to date. While not terribly important in the grand scheme of things, we still not have seen the actual box design of the unit, only the controller. We also really don't know what games are launching with PS5 other than a few third-party titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But so hopefully if this is on point somewhere around the right time, early June, mid-June, so it's coming soon.
Yeah, I want to say, now this might be a little bit of a conspiracy, but I want to say that the way Sony or PlayStation handled Last of Us and the PS4, the first Last of Us and the PS4, was that, if I'm correct, they either announced the PS4 or had a big showcase for the PS4, and then like 2 weeks later Last of Us came out, or like a week later Last of Us came out. So it was like that month everything was PlayStation. Like,
gotcha.
You've had all this stuff revealed about the PlayStation 4 at the time, the new console. The Last of Us has just come out and is breaking records everywhere. So it just gave PlayStation this huge boost going into the PS4, which could, I mean, we don't know, that could have a huge thing to do with why it sold so well. Because I'm pretty sure it was E3 where they had all these reveals for the PlayStation 4, showed it off and everything.
Yeah.
And then Last of Us came out literally like the weekend afterwards. So whether or not, because it definitely has, I mean, we were just saying about maybe Sony have been like masterclassing this the whole time, but it has definitely seemed like Sony have been holding off showing off their PS5 for a long time. And it could be to do with the fact they've been waiting to pair it with The Last of Us 2's release, the same way they did with the first game.
Sure.
Because if they show it off June the 4th, what's that, like 10 or 2 weeks later?
I think 19th is, Last of Us 2.
Yeah, so Last of Us 2 comes out, so that would be the same sort of like tactic, you know, to just have everybody talking about PlayStation properties, everyone talking about, have you seen the new PS5, what it looks like, when it's coming out, you can pre-order it now, have you played Last of Us 2, it's, you know, it's all this and that. So maybe that's to do with why they've been holding off. They've been waiting to know when The Last of Us 2 is definitely coming.
Right.
And then they're going to reveal it, because that's exactly what they did with the PS4. So that's just my little conspiracy.
That's a great, no, that's a good connecting of the dots. And I think it's a great idea because, you're going to own a good month basically, or a solid 2 weeks. If you pair it, first week is PS5, the next week is Last of Us 2 chatter, and then it's like you own that entire landscape with PlayStation.
Yeah. And like I said, it's exactly what they did with the PS4. I don't know exactly what it was they did, but I just because I remember it stuck with me for ages that they did that, and I just always have thought it's such a clever thing to do, is to like, it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. Like they've been waiting for so long to do anything, they've just been waiting, and then that 1-2 punch would be PS5 reveal, Last of Us 2's out, and people are playing it. It's I think it could definitely be to do with that, and obviously it's only PlayStation that, and like the higher ups, who know when Last of Us 2 would definitely be coming out, so they would always be able to, you know, push off the reveal for the PS5 to that date anyway. So it could be why, because I mean, a lot of people have been saying that it seems weird. It seems as though they were meant to reveal it now, they were meant to reveal it then, they haven't for some reason, but they were also meant to release Last of Us 2. So it could be that they're trying to sort of time those together.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And either way, I mean, I'm hoping then that all leads to June is going to be a smorgasbord of PS, news in general. I can't fucking wait.
June would be great if that happens, because I mean that would mean we'd have a PS5 review, we'd have Last of Us 2, and then next month we'd have Ghost of Tsushima. So that would be great.
Although someone put this thought out on Twitter, I forget who it was, but it's kind of ironic now that months ago we knew that PlayStation wasn't going to have an E3 presence before E3 was canceled, but now instead we're still getting the same announcements around the same time. So they were prepared to at least very much like compete with E3 by announcing their stuff around that same window. But even though they weren't going to be there, they're still going to use that time frame to announce their stuff. Yeah,
it could be to do with that. But I think the main reason I sort of think it's to coincide with Last of Us 2 is because there's been so many things saying that, you know, PlayStation 5 were meant to show it off, they've delayed it, or they've delayed sort of the reveal, they were meant to do it now, they were meant to do it at this point. Because I'm sure there was even like things saying back in like February they were meant to reveal it or something like that. And so I think it's definitely interesting that they're looking like they're going to reveal it around E3 time. But I personally think that's probably coincidental, because if anything, because of what's happened with the pandemic, and if anything that people are saying about them delaying it is to go by, then I think they probably would have announced it before then anyway.
True.